After months and weeks and so much time of speculation and rumors, it seems like we finally have an answer regarding Clemson's immediate future and where they'll be.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Clemson podcast. My name is John Bivens. I'm your host for this show. You can find us over on X at I am John Bivens. We are a part of the Locked On Clemson podcast, where it is your team every day. Thanks so much for making the Locked On Clemson your first listen every single day. We appreciate all of our everydayers that listen and give us a show, listen every single day and join us on bringing you all your latest updated news on Clemson University. Here on Locked On Clemson, you're getting three things. You're getting all sports, all passion, all of the time. Today is Tuesday, July 23rd. We are coming at you in the middle of this ACC Media Week, and we are so excited about it. And we're going to be talking about how Clemson is staying put, finally have some answers, it seems like. Talking about how this season we're going to see a lot of offensive improvement. And then we continue our series going through each game of last season. What can we learn about the team for this year from last season's game? So we'll talk about all that and so much more. We are so grateful for all of our sponsors that make this show possible. I don't know about y'all, but I know over the past weeks, months, I've been torn. I've been partially being like, man, this is exciting with all the court cases going on, the rumors of leaving conferences, like all this information, everything going on has been this like level of excitement. It's like, hey, there's something I actually pay attention to in the middle of July. You know what I mean? It's been exciting. Another part of me is like, can this please get over with? Like, can we be done with this? Can there be a decision that's made? Can something happen already where we can just move on with our lives? We can know the future. There's been so many question marks regarding Clemson and FSU's future in the ACC or going somewhere else. For some reason, we've partnered those two together. There's a very real chance that they end up in different conferences, but we'll talk about that another time. With so much speculation and so many rumors, there's been a lot of conversations like, what's going to happen? And it seems like we would have answers at one point. It seems like we had answers with them going to the Big 12. Then it seemed like we had answers. They weren't going anywhere. And we've just seen answer and rumor and speculation. Right now, we can say with about 95% confidence that Clemson has officially decided their immediate future for the next 2 years, and that is that they will be staying in the ACC. We're coming off that because due to some sources that we find very trustworthy, and we will give you those credited for sure, it seems like we definitely have found the rumors. Pete Thamel, who is a great reporter, tweeted this yesterday at 8 a.m., right before the start of Media Week. He said this. He said, we've been told by multiple sources that there's no expectation of Florida State or Clemson to notify the ACC they intend to leave by the August 15th deadline to depart after this upcoming year. That's the deadline to declare intentions to exit for the 25-26 year. What does that mean? It means that Clemson has to, if they want to not be in the conference for 25-26 season, they have to tell the ACC, hey, we're officially leaving the conference by August 15th. Everything that we're seeing, all the sources that we've seen, everybody that we trusted information we have says that Clemson has no intention of saying that they are leaving by that date. They're not going to do that. If they rushed their decision to make that, then it could hurt them in the court cases, could cause them to have to settle, could cause a lot of problems. So as of right now, it seems like they are staying in the ACC, which is big news. Does that mean that they're never going anywhere? Absolutely not. Does that mean that for the next 5 years they'll be in the ACC? Absolutely not. It means for the next 2 years you can expect them to see them in the ACC at least through the spring of 2026. That's exciting. As we've talked about, we are in the middle of this ACC Media Week going on down at Charlotte. It's so exciting. That whole building has this nice buzz to it. People are energetic. They're excited. They're focusing on the future. They're focusing on what's going to happen. It's an exciting time. Love being down there. And while we were down there, of course, a hot topic today as the media week started for the ACC was the transfer portal, was the conference realignment and Clemson and FSU's court cases and all of that. Today, the schedule for the ACC week is there was a couple of colleges there. There was Georgia Tech, there was SMU, and Florida State. But it was also the commissioners' meeting. So Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC, got up, talked for about an hour, and then later on went and had an interview with the ACC crew, doing the media crew. But he had some interesting comments to say. The biggest things is I was expecting him to have a lot to say about this. He really didn't. He had some good comments. He had some stuff that was like, oh, is that really what was happening? The first thing he said when he was asked about it is he called the respective lawsuits, he said they were extremely damaging, disruptive, and incredibly harmful to the conference. And then they went on and said that the Clemson and FSU, they willingly signed their grant of rights agreements and that they were eager to agree to the league's current TV contract. So he's just doubling down on ACC stance. He didn't give any new information, but he's just like, look, they know what they did, and they were excited about it. But he kind of got a little attitude about it. When he said it, he got a little passionate about it. He kind of put some chest into it. You know what I mean? He said it with his chest. Like he got into it. And so another reporter a couple questions later was like, hey, I noticed your tone changed right there. And here's what he said. Take this or leave it. He said, forceful moments deserve forceful support and leadership. This is a really important time for the conference. Either you believe in what you signed or you don't. We're going to do everything we can to protect and fight for the league. And then he said this line, which we're going to dissect. He said, this conference is bigger than any one school or schools. Throwing shots. He's calling them out. He said, this conference is bigger than any one school or schools. So according to Jim Phillips, he said that this conference has the most exciting group of teams, which college football I definitely disagree with. He said that Clemson ACC is better or is bigger than in Clemson and FSU, and granted it is, but that statement would mean that if Clemson and FSU left, then everything would be fine with the ACC. They wouldn't see any drop off at all. That anyone with any common sense knows that's not the truth. If Clemson and FSU leave the ACC is in major trouble. One, it could start a snowball. It could start this effect where it's just everything's going, other schools jump involved. We talked about yesterday all the schools that are a part of this potential leaving, departure of the ACC, all these rumors, all these schools that are interested in that. So, yes, in theory, technicality, the ACC is bigger than Clemson FSU. But you cannot fool anyone. If those schools leave, which we know we're 95% sure they're staying put till the end of 2026. If those schools leave, the ACC is going to have to do some major damage control. I think adding these 3 new schools was kind of a, hey, we'll set ourselves up for a little bit of protection, but there'll be a lot of damage control to happen. So he had those comments. I thought they were very, very interesting to read about. But overall, it seems like Clemson, they're in a spot where they've already angered ESPN. They've already made the ACC mad, one with the court case, but also, as we talked about a couple episodes, when they asked ESPN and ACC asked them to reschedule their Saturday game or their game against South Carolina to a Friday, Black Friday, and they said, no, that doesn't fit our culture. That isn't what's best for Clemson. And so ACC and ESPN were already mad at Clemson for not being willing to help out there. Now that's got all this court case, they've talked about leaving. The Big 12's been a part of it. There's a big thing right there that could happen. So that's exciting. That is a lot of question marks there. But one thing we want to make sure we talk about is this. I think there's been a lot of people say the SEC and Big Ten are not wanting Clemson. They've said it. They've made comments. They haven't said it showed any interest. And I've said that. I agree with that as of right now. But one thing that's important to note is this. Why would these two conferences verbalize that they want these schools when they don't know how this court case is going to happen? How bad would it look for the SEC or Big Ten to be like, yeah, we want Clemson and FSU, and then the court case goes wrong and they have to stay in the ACC, and they're like, never mind, you're fine. Then they got that. There isn't a win situation for there. I really think when this court case is over and once the legal battles are done, I think we're going to see SEC and Big Ten jump in there and kind of show a little bit of interest, kind of put their names maybe in the ring. I'm not saying they'll definitely go there, but I think they'll definitely be more interested there because Clemson and FSU, they're two huge fan bases. They're two huge schools and national prominent schools with history of success. So why would those conferences not want them? I think it's going to be interesting. But one thing we do know, unless something drastically changes between now and August 15th, Clemson is a ACC school at least through the spring of 2026. That's exciting. Good stuff going to happen. When we come back from this break, we're going to dive into the field and talk about next year we are going to see a major improvement on the offensive side. We'll talk about that and more in just a second.
This episode of Locked On Clemson is brought to you by FanDuel. Guess what, guys? I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. Whew, man, FanDuel has got you covered. FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up some bets anytime I'm in the mood. I'm telling you guys, it's at your leisure. You can be laying on the couch, twinkling your little toes, and you say, you know what? I want to drop a bet in this bad boy right now. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. Yes, every single day. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sportsbook betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to the Locked On Clemson podcast. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. So, one thing that you know about Clemson, when it comes to on the field, we know there's been a significant drop-off on offensive production. There's a lot of question marks when it comes to Clemson. Are they still the dominant team that they are? Can they still be as dominant as they were without the use of the transfer portal? Is Dabo still a modern-day great coach, or is it time for him to retire? Is their running back room going to be good? Is wide receiver room going to be good? Can Cade truly play to his level? Who's the QB2? And then looking at defense, there's all different kinds of question marks there, but less than the offense. But with all that going on, with among the conference realignment and all that kind of stuff going on, Dabo Swinney was asked what area has to be improved. What needs to change? What has to happen for Clemson not to have another 4-loss season like last year? What's the case? What's going to happen? And here's what he said. Dabo stated one area that absolutely has to be improved in order for that season to be a success. And what did he say? He said this in a quote. He said, obviously, our pass offense has to improve this year if we're going to get better. We have to be more explosive there. We have to improve. No, there's no surprise there, but that's the area. In order for Clemson to be successful, in order for us to avoid another 4-loss season, we've got to be more explosive on offense. And I'm here to tell you right now on this fine Tuesday, July 23rd, mark it down. John Bivens from Locked On ACC or Locked On Clemson is saying this. Clemson's offense is going to be explosive this year. Clemson's offense is going to be one that is reminiscent of Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne. I'm not saying that level, but it's going to reminisce that. And here's why. They have so many weapons. Last year, in the past couple years, honestly, since 2021, it feels like we've had weapons, but none of them have been healthy at the same time. We've had injuries. We've had people out. We've had inconsistency. We've had people go down. And because of that, it hasn't been able to have these explosive weapons. We've also had guys that were supposed to be filler pieces, supposed to be the ones to help us get to the next people who are the explosive ones, who just weren't healthy. Guys like Antonio Williams, guys like Tyler Brown, Adam Randall. Those were guys that they were never supposed to be the guy, like the T. Higgins, Justin Ross, Sammy Watkins, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Williams. They were never supposed to be the guy, but they were supposed to be the guys that could help fill in those roles. The guys help bridge those gaps. The guys there helping bring them to the next level. Well, now I think we're there because here's why. Those three I just mentioned, Adam Randall, Antonio Williams, Tyler Brown, those three are back. They're healthy. They're having an extremely, extremely great summer. They're having a great summer. They bolt up. They've done look good in the spring game. They look good. They're ready to be those role players that they need to be. Good players, like they could be stars, right? I mean, we just had a freshman All-American wide receiver last year. So with that being said, or all ACC team honors, those players are ready to do that. But now, not only do we have them, now we have 2 freshman wide receiver that are coming in, and these guys are going to be the guy. TJ Moore is going to be special. He is going to be someone that absolutely can make the explosive plays. They can absolutely break down the line and break through and catch the deep ball, catch him in stride. He can get in the slot. He can be in the red zone. He's a bigger threat. He's got muscle. He's got size. He's going to be talented. Bryant Wesco Jr., going to be the guy. He can be that level. He can be the quick. He's a little smaller, but he can be quick. He can be shifty. He can run in the slot. He's going to be someone really talented. We have 5 wide receivers right there that I firmly could believe could start at almost every single university in the nation. I mean, Troy Stellato, we didn't even mention him. He's also a weapon. He's a redshirt junior who also has potential and has had explosive plays in the past. Maybe not as consistent. He's not going to be the guy. He's not going to start, but he could come in off the bench and provide a rotation play. So we have that. You also have Cole Turner, who's a redshirt sophomore. We have these players that are extremely explosive. So pass game, going to improve on the wide receiver front. Offensive line. Our offensive line is going to be really good. We talked about that last episode, but we got Blake Miller, Walker Parks, Ryan Lithicum at center, Marcus Tate, Tristan Lay. We've got great players, but then we also have people waiting for their spot with Colin Sadler, Trent Howard, Harris Sewell, Ian Reed. We have people that are going to play. The offensive line should be good, should go back to that by unit instead of just 5 players, a rotating unit where people are being able to get fresh. In the running back room, do y'all realize how special Phil Moffitt is? How talented of a running back he is? He can run down the lane. He can muscle people over. He's got speed. He's shifty. He is a great back, and he's ready for a year where he's the sole RB1. Jay Haynes, Keith Adams Jr., Jarvis Green, they might get some reps here and now, but Phil Moffitt's the solid RB1, and he's going to be off for a great year. And then you have Cade Klubnik, who we've talked about multiple times. He's got a year under his belt. He's had 1 year of him being the starter. He's had 1 year of him being the guy, and now he's coming back in for a great spring. Garrett Riley, Dabo Swinney have talked about how he's calmed down. He's less of that jittery, twitchy player that he can sometimes be. He's more consistent. He's found his confidence. He's starting to become that leader role. If you watch that, Clemson has a great place called a House Visit where they put out YouTube videos. If you haven't seen those, go watch that. It's a great series. But they did one with Cade Klubnik, and he just seemed like a different vibe to him than he had all of last year. He seemed confident. He seemed at home. He seemed like he truly knew who he was and who the level he is, the player he is. So he's in for a great year. But not only mention that, we also have someone that we haven't even mentioned that is one of the best players at his position in the nation, and that's Jake Brenningstool. This tight end is massive. He's talented. He can run. He can get open. He can catch. He can block. He's going to be an explosive year. So when we go down past couple years, we haven't had that explosive player. We haven't had those explosive plays. Now we have them. We have TJ Moore. We have Tyler Brown. We have Phil Moffitt. We have Jake Brenningstool. We have the explosive players that allow them to push forward that. And because of that, we are going to see a massive improvement on the offensive side for Clemson this year. It's going to be special, guys. I really want you to hear that. It's this year, Clemson offense is going to start looking more and more like who they used to be and who we know this Clemson team can be. And because of these explosive weapons and these explosive players, Garrett Riley, Dabo Swinney last year talked about the dirt raid when Garrett Riley came in. We didn't get to see that last year because when your pass game is weak, they can load the box because they know you're not going to tear them up on the pass game. If we can start creating some threats on the pass game, it'll open up lanes for Phil Moffitt rushing the ball, and that dirt raid will start happening. And what does that lead to? It leads to more explosive plays pass field. So it's this beautiful cycle, but that could also hurt you. It's either pass plays good, so rush game opens. So it's just a nice cycle working together. So pass game's good, rush game opens, rush game's good, pass game opens. And it's a great cycle. Problem with that is past couple years, it's been the opposite. Pass game's weak, stuffing the line. Rush game weak, pass game weak, right? It's this negative cycle. If we can click how we know we can, this team is going to have a lot of offensive improvements this year. We're going to talk about more about the explosive threat and the need for that explosive plays on offense when we come back as we recap in our series going through our past or other NC State or our games from last year. So after this break, we'll recap another game from last season as we have been doing this offseason, and we'll talk about that and more once we come back from this quick ad break. Welcome back to the Locked On Clemson podcast. Thanks so much for being here. Hey, before we dive into this, we do want to let you know this. We've talked about this a couple times. Make sure, if you're an everyday listener, if you're a fan of this Locked On Clemson podcast, make sure you join our Locked On Insider program, where our Locked On Clemson Insider program, or you can join our elite crew of insiders for this podcast and this network. What that gets you, it gets you one-on-one chat whenever you want. You text the number. I'll give it to you in a second. You can then send me a message, and I'll respond back. I'll let you know. You can ask us questions. We're going to create mailbag episodes where all the questions you send us, we then respond back and give you answers on those. And we respond those. Those are only be available for our Locked On Insiders. We'll also be doing some film studies once the season starts, where you can go through and we'll break down some film for the season. So it's going to be a lot of great things. You don't want to miss out on this program. So make sure you join our Locked On Clemson Insider program by texting Clemson to 864-252-1907. Text Clemson to that number. Again, it's 864-252-1907. Text Clemson there in order to start your free trial, 14-day free trial of our Locked On Clemson Insider program. But this offseason, we've been going through and we go through and we watch the entire games from last year. We've gone through and we've watched 7 so far. Today, we're going to continue that series up. And what we do is we go through, watch these games, and then we talk about what does that game show us and teach us about the team for this year. And it is right there in theme. This game that we're going to go through today is right in theme with our last segment, talking about our offensive improvement. And that's our NC State game from last year. This was our last loss of the season. It was our 4th loss, started us going 2 for 4 in the conference, 4 and 4 overall. We lost to NC State 24-17. It was a great game. Not really. It was not energetic. It wasn't that exciting at all for Clemson. Started off first quarter, Cade Klubnik threw a touchdown, led to Kevin Concepcion, a 9-yard pass from MJ Morris for a touchdown. Second quarter, we held them to a field goal. We had a 9-play, 75-yard for a touchdown, went into halftime down 10-7. Third quarter, Peyton Wilson had a 15-yard pick six on Cade Klubnik for their second interception of the night. And then later on, Kevin Concepcion had another 72-yard pass from MJ Morris, so he had another passing touchdown to go up 24-7. Fourth quarter, Clemson scored twice, one on another 1-yard run by Phil Maffa, one on a field goal, but that was going to be it. Lost the game 24-17. Overall, the game, stats-wise, wasn't terrible. Clemson by far, had more yards than Clemson. Total yards, or Clemson had more yards than State. Total yards, Clemson had 364. NC State only had 202. First downs, Clemson had 20. NC State had 9. Possession, Clemson 33 minutes, 41 seconds. NC State 26 minutes and 19 seconds. So Clemson dominated all those. What didn't happen, Clemson had 2 turnovers while NC State had 0. When you look at player performances, Cade Klubnik threw the ball a lot this game. He had 50 attempts for 33 completions, 263 yards with 2 interceptions, 0 passing touchdowns. Rushing the ball, Phil Maffa led the way, 16 carries, 84 yards with 2 touchdowns. Will Shipley had 6 for 21. Leading receivers, Jake Brenningstool at tight end we talked about earlier. Explosive game, had 8 receptions for 93 yards. Cade Klubnik did fumble the ball, but we didn't lose it. On the defensive side, really the only person that had an outstanding game was Ruka Roror, had 3 tackles for a loss and a sack, led the team with that. There was 2 other sacks. Wade Woodhouse had 1. Barrett Carter had 1 as well, but Ruka Roror really led the way. Looking at stateside, MJ Morris had 11 for 22 for 138 yards with 2 touchdowns. Rushing, Kevin Concepcion led the team in rushing and receiving. He had 2 carries for 51 yards. Rushing, he had 5 receptions for 83 receiving yards with 2 touchdowns. Led the way theirs. They didn't have any fumbles, didn't have any interceptions. They had a couple players that led the way. Their sacks, they had only had 2 sacks on the night. Jalen Scott and Dave Van had a couple tackles for losses. Like we said, those 2 interceptions by Peyton Wilson and Devin Boykin. Overall, it was a game that was dominated by NC State, and it was dominated in this way, not in yardage, not in stats, not in anything like that. The reason why their play time and their time of possession was so much longer is they had more explosive plays. We've talked about that. The explosive plays that Dabo Swinney talked about, that we just talked about, that we're missing. This game proves that. In order for Clemson to be better, we can learn from this game last year, the explosive plays have to come. You're not going to win without those big plays. I mean, think back to Clemson, the prime time. From 2016 to 2020, it seems like every game, at least 1 or 2 plays would happen where Travis Etienne would hit a hole and rush for 70 yards, or Trevor Lawrence would find a wide-open receiver for a 50-yard touchdown pass. That happened all the time. Last year, very, very, very few times did that happen. NC State had those. Concepcion had a 50-yard rush last year in this game. He also had a 72-yard receiving touchdown. They had the big games. They had the big explosive plays. They had the interceptions, the explosive defensive plays, and that led them to this win. In order for Clemson to win, we've said it and we'll continue saying it, in order for Clemson to win, in order for them to get back to who they are, the offense have got to find their stride. They've got to have the explosive plays. They've got to find the receivers that are going to make it happen. They've got to find Phil Maffa getting strong offensive performance running the ball. Cade Klubnik's got to have better decisions. Can't be throwing 2 picks, especially a pick 6. Can't be doing that. This game, the NC State game from last year, shows us what we already know. It shows us you have to have the explosive plays. You've got to be able to make the deep ball, make the connections, and in order for you to have the explosive plays, it starts with the routine plays. You make a couple short 5-yard completions, 15-yard completion. You make the shorter routine plays. You rush for 5 yards consistently. Make the shorter ones, cause their defense to react to your consistently small positive gains, and then you have the explosive big because they missed a deep shot. If you're not hitting the explosive shots, if you're not hitting the small things, they can guard the small things, and you know you're not getting to the big thing. In order for us to have explosive, we've got to do every right, and that's what's hurting. Our offense has to be better. And like we said, this year it 100% will be. So excited to see that. ACC Clemson football is coming to rock the ACC. Going to have a strong improvement on that side of the ball. But with that being said, that is going to wrap up this episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. As this week continues, we're going to keep diving into the football, keep bringing you stuff from Media Days in Charlotte. But we would love to hear your thoughts on today's topic. Reach out to us on Twitter at I am John Bivens. Hit us up on that Locked On Insider program. You can text Clemson to 864-252-1907 to join that, or just drop a comment on YouTube. We'd love to hear your thoughts and comments and all your opinions on what we talked about today. If you haven't, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast, wherever you get your podcast at. And if you're over watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. That way, every day we can be your first listen here on Locked On Clemson. Make sure to check out other podcasts from Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. We can't wait to see you on tomorrow's episode, but until then, you know what to do. You keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring, and as always, go Tigers.